All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the playbook of the Church of Scientology. We're going to be looking at the organization's own internal documents, a ton of investigative reports, and sworn court testimony to understand the strategies that have made it one of the most talked about and controversial institutions in the world.
So, have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a straight answer about this organization? Well, according to the sources we've reviewed, that's not an accident. Information isn't just missing, it's often actively blocked. So, what we're going to do is try and take a look behind that wall.
And here's the thing. These documents suggest that the key to understanding all the controversy isn't some deep, dark secret. It's actually written down, right there in the founding policies, laid out by the founder himself as a way to handle anyone he saw as an enemy.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. To really get what's going on, you have to look at the official written down policies for dealing with critics. This is, ground zero for the whole playbook. It all kicks off with a policy called fair game. And this isn't just some casual term, it's a formal, documented policy. It pretty much sets the entire tone for how the organization is supposed to respond to any kind of opposition. And just listen to the actual language of the policy. The founder, L. Ron Hubbard, wrote that a perceived enemy may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed. I mean, wow, that's not an outsider's interpretation. That's a direct quote from their own materials. It gives you a pretty stark look into their approach.
But fair game isn't a standalone idea. No, it's backed up by another doctrine called attack the attacker, which basically turns the idea into a practical, step-by-step procedure.
So the crucial point here is that this isn't just random retaliation, it's a system. Hubbard's own writings lay out these steps. First, you spot who's attacking you. Second, you investigate them for any crimes you can find. And third, you feed any lurid evidence you uncover to the press. It's a formal blueprint for how to neutralize your critics. So we've seen the doctrine, the theory. Now let's look at how it gets put into practice. Specifically, how the legal system itself is allegedly used not as a shield for defense, but as a weapon for offense. And once again, you don't have to guess the strategy. The founder's own words are incredibly revealing. Hubbard wrote, "The purpose of the suit is to harass and discourage rather than to win." So it's right there in black and white. The goal of the lawsuit is intimidation. And the source documents, they're just full of concrete examples of this. You've got lawsuits against former members that have dragged on for decades. You have sworn affidavits from private investigators who actually testified that their goal was, and I'm quoting here, to make the plaintiff's life a living hell. This is where that doctrine we talked about becomes very real. But look, these aggressive tactics aren't only pointed outward. The sources allege that very similar principles of coercion and control are applied internally against the organization's own members. Now, it's really, really important to be clear here. The information we're about to go through comes directly from sworn court testimony and lawsuits filed by people who used to be members. We are reporting on the allegations as they are presented in these legal documents. So this table gives you a summary of the serious allegations you find in those lawsuits. Former members describe what they call coercive labor. We're talking over 100 hours a week for about $50. They allege systematic psychological abuse, like being deprived of sleep and put through intense interrogations. And then there are claims of extreme information control and even punitive justice, including really shocking allegations of forced abortions and policies designed to separate families. And one of the most powerful tools of internal control described in these documents is a policy called disconnection. This is the official practice of forcing members to completely sever all contact with anyone, even their own parents or children, if that person is critical of the organization. According to testimony, the human cost of this policy is just immense. It rips families apart, many times forever. It completely isolates members from any outside support system they might have. And because of that, it serves as an incredibly powerful tool to make sure people stay in line. I mean, the threat of losing your entire family, that's a profound deterrent. So, when you pull all these different threads together, what's the big picture that starts to form? Well, the sources suggest that the external tactics used against critics and the internal tactics used against members, they're not separate issues at all. What the sources really lay out is a system that seems to be built on three core pillars: a doctrine of attack, the weaponization of litigation, and a system of internal coercion. And this brings us to the main argument you find in the source material. The claim is that these aren't just a bunch of random incidents. Instead, they form an interconnected institutional strategy, a system that is designed to protect the organization at all costs. And all of this leaves us with the fundamental question that's raised by all this material, for any organization, really. Where is the line between a protected religious practice and what these sources allege is a system of institutional abuse? That is the central conflict, isn't it? Right at the very heart of this story.